Welcome to Movie Damage, and we're so glad you decided to make us part of your day. We've just gotten back from watching the movie The Mockingjay Part 2, which pretty much concludes and wraps up everything from the Hunger Games series. Now, I'll start from the beginning. My overall view of this movie was it was a good movie. It had a few pacing issues at the beginning. Towards the midway part it was really good, and then towards the end it got a bit predictable. But that's not detracting from it. As I said, when the first few movies were really good. And by saying that this is a good movie isn't saying that it's a bad movie in any way. It's just saying that in a lot of ways it wasn't as good as, let's say, the original one, in my personal opinion, or even number 2 to a certain degree. Let's start with the cast of this movie, and the cast is an all-star cast. I have to admit, everybody played their part in this movie. Nobody slacked off. I've got to say straight up, from Jennifer Lawrence, who was excellent as Katniss, to Josh Hutcherson, who plays Peter, and Woody Harrelson's in it. You've got Donald Sutherland in it, Julianne Moore, who also plays a fantastic role, and one of my favourite all-time actors, who unfortunately is now passed away, Philip Seymour Hoffman. Now, and there's plenty of other people that I can mention, but everybody played their role in this. They all got together, so I can't take anything away from the acting. I will say straight up that I think that the script was a bit rushed in some cases. It didn't give enough character development in this final part of the story. Now, I will make a note, if you haven't seen the previous movies, you really need to watch them before watching this final part, otherwise you're going to be absolutely lost, and I really do mean that. There's a lot of things happening that, without the explanation given in the previous movies, you'd be watching it and just going, why the heck is this happening? And that doesn't detract from the movie. I presume majority of people who watched it have seen the first ones, or the first few movies. Now, let's get into what was really good about this movie. Now, the second act for me was really good. Not to give too much of a spoiler away, but they're underground, and the cinematography was really well done. It felt really claustrophobic, damp, dank, and when the traps start going off, it really, there was a lot of urgency going on down there. So the second act of the movie, for my opinion, was the best part of the movie. Also, as I said, the acting was really strong throughout the whole thing. The set pieces were quite extravagant. I think sometimes, here is one complaint I will say right now, is that a lot of the big action scenes and big set pieces in the movie, unfortunately you got to see a lot of that in the preview, and so there wasn't a lot of stuff in the movie which was a surprise for me. Now, let's go on to what I didn't really like about this movie. The first act was boring. I'll be honest, it was very slow to lead up, and there wasn't a sense of urgency in this movie that you sort of had in the previous ones. Everything was just, oh, we've got to do this to do this. And for me, the urgency was probably one of the things that I really disliked the most about this movie. It just didn't have that same sense of importance of life or death sort of thing that was going on previous to this. Another thing that I didn't really quite like was a lot of the plot twist towards the end. You see it coming. I personally did anyway. So there was, the big surprises to me seemed predictable, and you just saw it coming. Also, there wasn't the character development that you had in the previous movies. Now, this is understandable. I mean, basically the same, well, if you want character development, watch the previous movies, the characters have developed, here they are for the final act. But for me, I thought that there was enough going on still with the personal relationships with these other characters that they could have really elevated it up. Also, for me, it was a shame not to see more Woody Harrelson. I've got to say, when he's in the movie, he really sort of shines, and I really think that he was underutilized in this movie. Now, that said, I mean, I've heard that they kept this really close to the book, so that might have hindered them in a lot of ways, but they would have still had a lot more freedom, I think, than they chose to go with. But that's just my personal opinion. But as I said, overall, it was a good movie, and it was enjoyable. A little boring, as I said, towards the beginning, and predictable towards the end. But you know, everything was tied up nicely and neatly, and yeah. So my overall opinion on this movie was it was good. It was a good movie. Would I recommend people go watch it? Yes, definitely. Especially if you've liked the previous movies. If you like the previous movies, you're going to love this one. But as I said, for me, it just didn't live up quite to what I was hoping it was going to be. Maybe, you know, I'm just spoilt for choices sometimes, so sometimes I expect such high standards, and then I get the movie. I might watch it again and appreciate it more as I sort of pick up a few of the subtle things that are going on in the movie. But as I said, for me, it could have just been a little bit more grandiose. Yeah. But that's just me. I still enjoyed the movie. I thought it was a good time. So I'd strongly recommend you watch this, especially if you like The Hunger Games, the previous movies. If you didn't like the previous ones, then I'd strongly either say I wouldn't bother, or wait till it comes on DVD or something like that. If you are a big fan though, check it out at the cinemas. For me, it was worth the watch, and I'm going to go around. I'm going to give this a 6.5 out of 10. It was a good movie. Could it have been better? In my opinion, maybe slightly, a few tweaks here and there, but as I said, it was an enjoyable movie to watch. So yeah, that's my opinion on it. So if you like what you've seen here, please press the like button or even subscribe. You don't know what's going to be coming up next week, and hope to hear from you soon. And please leave your comments, because I always love to hear what you've got to say. Okay, thank you very much. Peace.